Everyone is making transfers this week in Game Week 2. There's so many being made, and today I have you covered. I have my top transfer tips for Game Week 2. It's also my preview of the game week. And before we go any further, a shout out to Marshmallow, who is coached by Thomas Buick. He is leading the FPL Think You Can Beat the D-Unit League. Congratulations with 101 points this particular game week in Game Week 1. He played his bench boost for 23 points. That felt very nice. Congratulations, mate. Before we dive into today's show, please smash a like on the video, share it with your friends and on social media. That would definitely help me out. Leave me a comment with what you're planning on doing this week. And if you haven't already, press that subscribe button. And with that being said, let's go. So before we dive into the actual top transferred in players and the ones transferred out in defenders, midfielders and forwards, we do have to look at the FDR, because when I looked at some of the transfers in this week, it didn't make much sense to me. A lot of people are bringing in Liverpool players and they've got Newcastle away and Arsenal at home next. That is not the week to be bringing them in. There's a lot of people bringing in Chris the Woody Woodpecker. Trust me, I love the man. But if you're looking at the fixtures for Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace away, it just doesn't feel that good, you know? I don't quite get it. But it is what it is. I think that there's just things that you need to consider when you're looking at these, when you're looking at your moves. If they don't line up with the fixtures, don't make the move. I get that people want to beat the price rises and et cetera, and I am answering a bunch of people's questions in this show as well, so keep your eyes out for that later on. But it does come down to this. If you are targeting fixtures more often than not, that is where you'll get the points returns. If you're bringing in a player with a red fixture or a hard fixture, the likelihood is they're not going to do anything. If you're points chasing, the points have already been had. For example, I was sitting there, I looked at Chris Woody Woodpecker and I was like, going 13 points last week. I could have done with that. But then I look at Crystal Palace away this week. It just doesn't feel like a good fixture to be bringing him in. So for that reason, it's very important to look at the fixtures. If you don't look at them and you make blind moves, I remember this last season. I sat there and I bought in Cunha in game week. I can't remember which game week it was. It was where he played Tottenham and he was on a hot streak. But then I was like, the band's coming, and I just didn't think about it, and I was on holiday, and I just thought that's good, the move we're going to make. Played 45 minutes and got banned after that 45 minutes. Had to transfer him straight back out. So it is important to plan your transfers. Don't make them willy-nilly. And remember, if you're playing FPL for the very first time ever, if you make more than one free transfer, you are taking a hit. And that is worth -4 points off your score for the game week. Not many content creators will tell you this, but if you're brand new to the game, if you make more than one transfer this week and you're not on a chip, you will lose 4 points for every extra transfer you make. Because there were some people last year that made a lot of transfers every single week, thinking they could do it. You don't. You lose points. So please keep that in mind when you're making your transfers in Game Week 2. So onto the defensive transfers and the ones that are the most transferred in. So I've done the top 7 transferred in and transferred out for the game week so far. And I'm recording this currently on Tuesday evening Australia time, which is probably Tuesday afternoon UK time. Most transferred in, Ballard. Makes a bit of sense. He had a 17-pointer, but again, this definitely feels like a case of points chasing. Will he do that well against Burnley away? It is an away fixture. It's not at home. Burnley are going to want to get off to a half-decent start. This, realistically, if they're going to win a game, Burnley's going to win this one. Let's be honest. I think this is definitely a case of points chasing. The next most transferred in defender is Aït-Nouri. Again, Pep Roulette. We don't know whether he's going to be good or whether he's going to be not moving forward. Guardiola might be back. We'll talk and transfer it out in a second. But Aït-Nouri always runs at risk. He's not going to get the DC contributions every week. I can give you the hot tip. Then we got Matty Cash. Now, I kind of understand this one a little bit because Brentford looked pretty bad last weekend, let's be honest. But Nottingham Forest, who I would argue are a much better defence even than Aston Villa last season, conceded. A dubious handball and all the rest. But is he really that good? Is this a player you should be bringing in this week when your first transfer? I don't know. Kukurea, I understand this one. This dude is good. West Ham away fixture. They look pretty bad in game week 1. And I mean, he's my boy Kukurea. I can't sit there and say that's a bad transfer. Now, the next two, Arsenal defence, yes. They play Leeds this week at home. You would expect them to keep a clean sheet. They kept a clean sheet against Man United. But the following game weeks, if we go back to the FDR that I just showed you before, for Arsenal, it's not good. I don't understand why people are bringing in Gabriel and Saliba. Unless you're on a free hit, it makes no sense. Their fixtures are no good, defensively speaking, other than this week, through to about game week 7. That's when you need to be targeting Arsenal defence. Then we got Lewis. Now, apparently he's been the subject of bids by Nottingham Forest. Will he even be at Man City by the end of the thing? This is the guaranteed of Pep Roulette. This is a silly transfer in. If you are thinking about bringing Lewis in, all you have to do is look at last season. There is no way that he is a good transfer in any way, shape, or form. Now, the most transferred out, we've got Guardiol. Why people started with him when we knew that he wasn't going to be playing before the deadline, I've got no idea. But we have to wait for Pep's press conference. I wouldn't be jumping the gun. He could be fit for this weekend, and all of a sudden, all those people transferring him out might look a bit silly. Let's be honest. Konza, he is suspended, obviously. It is only for 1 game week. Do you really need to make a defensive transfer for 1 game week? That is the question. If you don't, why are you transferring him? Doesn't make much sense. Frimpong apparently had hamstring awareness. That kind of makes a little bit more sense. We, again, have to wait for Slot's press conference later on. Maybe he does need to be moved. But again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. Wan-Bissaka, I don't know why you're moving him. Honestly, why are people moving him out? I'm not sure. I think West Ham should be okay. I think that's very knee-jerky. Whoever's transferring him out, just please leave me a comment because why are you doing it? Virgil, as I said before, he did get the DC last week. But again, Liverpool's opening fixtures, I don't understand why anyone went with the Liverpool defence the first 3 weeks. Prior to the Burnley game, doesn't make a lot of sense. Not a lot of chance for clean sheets. I'm expecting Newcastle to score. I expect Arsenal to score the week after. I just don't know why he went there. Pedro Porro, look at that. Returns game week 1, game week 2 Man City. Everyone goes, oh my God, I've got double Tottenham defence. I've got to get rid of one of them. Who would have thought that that would be a problem? Who would have thought? I did. That's why I didn't have any Spurs defenders. I understand it. He was on set pieces, but again, it's a pretty easy transfer out, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. And then Kirkes, ditto. Oh, it's not a coincidence that 3 Liverpool players are in the top 7 transferred out players for defenders. Why did you have them to begin with? That's all I've got to know. On to the midfielders. Now, Reindeers, clearly he's miles in front. 5.6 million. He's already risen in price. In fact, the first 2 players in this have already risen in price. They do look like really good assets. Reindeers has literally pulled the D-Unit sleigh in game week 1. Hopefully he continues to do that in game week 2. Semenyo, he's got an amazing fixture of Wolves as well. That does make a lot of sense. I don't think that's a case of points chasing. Kudus, though, when you go to Man City away, maybe people just think that he's going to be good there. I'm not really too sure, but I'm not expecting. I think like Kudus would be a transfer in game week 3, not in game week 2. Then we look at Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah. Now, they both returned. They both scored for Liverpool in game week 1, but they go to Newcastle, who actually looked really good defensively. This is not the time to be bringing these guys in. The time to be bringing them in is when Liverpool play Burnley in game week 4. Why are you bringing them in this week when they go to Newcastle and they got Arsenal? Makes no sense to me. It literally makes no sense to me. I own Cody Gakpo, and I actually thought about transferring him out this week. That's all I'll say about that. Brian Mbeumo and Cunha, I understand. They both looked unbelievably good against Arsenal. I mean, they probably should have combined for a goal at some point in that game. I think against Fulham, we might see the Amarin United in terms of the attacking sense. For that reason, I think they could be really good moves. And they do have Burnley in game week 3. So it's not like it's a 1-week play. It's more like a 2-week play before they have the harder fixtures again. The most transferred out. Now, this is very reactionary. Like Wirtz. I understand it because there are lots of other good assets above that we've just covered, like Reindeers, Semenyo, and Mbeumo, Cunha, that look good this week in comparison to Wirtz because he's going to Newcastle. But that's very reactionary. Marmoush, I understand, but there's every chance that he starts this week. Honestly, there's every chance he starts this week. We're talking about Pep Roulette. He probably changes half the team this weekend. Who knows? It's impossible to try and predict that. Again, if you started with him, I think I'd be holding. Cole Palmer, I think you've got to give him another week. He's got West Ham away this week. Chelsea obviously are running a little bit cold from their Club World Cup duties. Man City obviously finished that up a little bit earlier than Chelsea did. I expect Chelsea to probably warm up a little bit more this week, and West Ham didn't look good. So I think you've got to give him this week before probably moving him out. That's what I'm doing myself. So I can't recommend anyone to do anything else. Bruno Fernandes, he was so close to getting the DC points last week, one off. He's now gone to Fulham. He had the most chances created of any player in the game last week. I don't understand why people are moving him. The one that comes in at fifth, though, this guy should be at number one. Ndiaye literally died in the ass. He's no good. I told you last week he was no good. And what did he do against Leeds? He did diddly squat. Ndiaye needs to see the death of your team. If there's a transfer that deserves to be out, it is him. Because you were silly to pick him in the first place. Alanga, I actually thought he looked pretty good against Aston Villa. I'm surprised that he's the sixth most transferred out midfielder. And then Morgan Rogers, he's got Brentford this week, who were horrible last week. How is he the seventh most transferred out midfielder? When I made this graphic, I was like, what? What is going on with number 6 and 7 and this for the midfielders? I do not understand, but it is what it is. I wouldn't be moving either of those last two out. So on to the forwards, and there are a few that double up in the transferred in and the transferred out section here, which is quite ironic. Now, Ekitiike and Wood are going to look into them in a little bit more detail post this graphic, and I'm going to give you my honest thoughts about them, but I think this is not the time to be bringing them in. The forward that I most want to bring in myself, the one that I kind of wish that I'd sort of gone with, the card sort of led me there, but it didn't lead me there, was Erling Haaland. Started like an absolute train on fire, as he normally does. He looked fantastic. And I kind of wish I had him in my team. Then we got Richarlison, the Pigeon. He goes to Man City. I actually think he keeps Dominic Solanke out of that team. He's a better player than Dominic Solanke when he's fit and available. But I think for this week, he's not a good move. Like, they're going to Man City. Are they really going to score a goal? I don't see Tottenham scoring this week. They're going to give us a Spursy performance. I mean, they'll probably beat City now that I've just said that. Then Gyökeres. He played 59 minutes. He might not even get a start against Leeds at home. I thought that Havertz looked way better than Gyökeres when he came on for him. Maybe Arteta sees as a way to like an easier team for Gyökeres, maybe potentially get a goal and get up and running. He is a flat track bully. If you look at his record in Portugal, that's what he is, a flat track bully. You would think if there's a game that he's going to return, it is actually probably this one. Then we got João Pedro. I don't know how he appears in sixth on the most transferred in players. I mean, Delap is always going to be a minute's risk to him. And I just thought Chelsea looked a bit slow in that game. I'm legitimately surprised that João Pedro is the sixth most transferred in forward. I thought there'd be other forwards that would be higher up than him this week. There wasn't much there to suggest that he should be a transferred in player this week. And then Mayenda. He was good last week. Scored a goal. Brilliant. 70-odd minutes. He has got the Burnley fixture this week as well. So I understand this move. It's definitely a one-week punt, though. I don't know if you want to have him long-term, but maybe he's better than Mark Gui because of the fact that, he actually started and got some minutes. Then we have a look. Then we look at the most transferred out. Now, why people started with Isaac, I've got no idea. Eddie Howe said he wasn't going to be playing. He's still subject. He might still end up at Liverpool. We do not know at this moment in time. He's just an avoid. I don't know why anyone started with him. They obviously just didn't check their teams before they got going. Makes no sense. João Pedro, this is what I said last week. If you're picking João Pedro, you have to expect the early subs. He's going to get games where he gets 1 point, like we saw with Gyökeres on the weekend against Man United. That is going to happen. They have Liam Delap, who they spent 30 million on. They play in the same position. It's logical sense, or maybe to some it's not logical sense, I don't know, but essentially it should be pretty obvious. Jared Bowen, I'm not sure. I think you've just got to hold faith here. West Ham surely have a response at home this week against Chelsea. I'm playing Jared Bowen myself in my own team. I think that he'll be fine. I mean, he's so consistent normally, and when West Ham do score, he's definitely going to be involved. We all know this. I think he's fine to hold. Watkins, Well, he's playing Brentford this week. How is he the fourth most transferred out player? He actually comes in at number 8 on the most transferred in. So he just missed out on being on that on the top half of this graphic. But he should be the one that's transferred in. He's playing Brentford that were useless against Nottingham Forest, who don't normally attack well. I don't understand how he's the fourth most transferred out forward. I get it if you're going to Haaland, it's probably the easiest route if you didn't have Haaland or Salah in your drafts, and I potentially might do that myself next week, but not this week. Gyökeres, you'll be frustrated. 59 minutes he came off last week. It's not ideal. It's not what you want. Solanke, I told you, absolutely useless. Last year, I said never again Dominic Solanke. I'm now sticking faith to that. I just don't see a world where if Richardson's fit, Solanke starts in front of him. He's a worse player in every way, shape, and form of the game. Sorry, Solanke. I know it's a bit brutal, but it's true. Richarlison the Pigeon is flying a lot higher than you'll ever get this season. And then Mark Gui, why anyone ever thought that was a good idea to buy a 4.5 million Sunderland forward is literally beyond my understanding. And maybe if you're one of those people, maybe you need to have a hard look at yourself in the mirror. So are these good moves? Because they are the two most popular forward moves. Now, Wood in game week 1 got 2 goals. That was really good, 13 points. Ekitiike had a goal and an assist and 11 points. If you look at the fixtures, and I know that West Ham fixture really should be green on there, but I just think they're going to come good, so I've actually altered it myself. So in case anyone's wondering, that's what that is all about, not because of the fact that I've just not left them green. Wood makes a lot more sense. In reality, if I was to move for either of these two this week, it would be Chris Wood. The Woody Woodpecker just scores off ridiculous XG chances. He's been doing it for about 18 months. It's unbelievable. I thought he'd drop off this year. I got it wrong. I sincerely apologise. However, he's got Crystal Palace away, and they are fairly good defensively, and he's got Arsenal away in game week 4. If you were going to buy him, it would be in game week 3 for that West Ham at home fixture. You'd bench him in game week 4, and then you'd play him again in 5 and 6. That is what I would do if I was to buy Chris Wood. And honestly, I am contemplating it myself next week. It makes a lot of sense. This week, though, not tempted. When it comes to Ekitiike, even more so, we don't know if Liverpool are going to buy Isaac yet. I would say that the odds of that happening are 50-50. And if that happens, all of a sudden his minutes and Gakpo's minutes go really up in the air. And they've got Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. Are you really expecting him to get another 11 points the next 2 weeks? I reckon he struggles to get 6 points the next 2 weeks. That's my honest opinion. It's hard fixtures. These are the hardest ones for Liverpool. Game week 4, I understand it completely. I think people have just really reaction to these two moves, and it just doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. So on to your questions that you've given me this week that I pulled out of like the WhatsApp chat off X and other things that I've just seen lying around. I'm going to try and answer them in as best detail as I possibly can. Should I wildcard in game week 2 because I had a bad game week? Well, the answer to that is I got 37 points. I'm ranked 8 million, whatever it is. The answer is no. You're better off holding your wild card. It's using it in the first week after you've literally played game week 1, where you've got like literally a free week wild card to pick your game week 1 team. You should have been picking your team to at least cover the first 1 to 6 weeks, maybe 1 to 3 if you're like really short term. Moving and using a wildcard in game week 2 is the most silliest move I could recommend. Like it's just not a go. It's not a go at all. I wouldn't be doing it. That's my honest opinion. I just wouldn't be doing it. Do I need Rudolph the D-Unit's reindeer? This is another really good question. Part of me says yes, and then part of me says no, because I know that Pep Roulette is coming, and at some point, and I don't even know, it could even be this week against Spurs at home, it could be a 1-pointer incoming, where he starts on the bench, comes on for like 10 minutes and gets you 1 point. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Is he essential? No. Is he a good buy if you've got a decent looking team and you just want to swap? I'm not sure that's even a good move. I think we need a little bit more data, is the honest answer to that. I don't think I'd be hopping on the D-Unit's reindeer just yet. I'm very glad to have him, but if he didn't start with him, there's no reason to panic. Yes, his price rose, but I wouldn't be sitting there. Now that it's risen, I wouldn't be panicking before the deadline. Next question. I didn't go Salah or Haaland. Should I panic and take a hit or hits to bring one in? If the answer is Salah and you want to bring him in, the answer is no. It's an emphatic no. There's no way in the world I would take a hit or hits to bring Salah into my team. I've got no interest in owning the man until at least game week 4, and maybe then we'll have a little bit more info about how Liverpool's going to click, how they're going to work. Salah was very lucky to return on the weekend. He wasn't the main man, and that's something that we need to look for moving forward. Haaland, though, I potentially have looked at taking a -4 myself this week to bring that man in, and I could almost justify taking a hit to bring him in. He's probably the most surefire thing we've got in the forward line early doors. He started hot. He looked good. The minutes were decent. I mean, Pep should have left him on for the hat-trick. His owners probably wouldn't have been happy about that. But he looked good. If there's one player I want on my team, it's that man. It's the cyborg. He's up and about. Who's the best asset to buy this week? This is a good question. I personally think that it's probably Saka because Arsenal play Leeds at home. But it's really a one-week play. If you're after a player that's going to play long-term, you probably want Haaland. If you didn't start with Haaland, I think that's the one you probably want. He's not going to get rotated, so you don't have to worry about Pep Roulette as much. And he's going to be good. And you can captain him as well. Should I be concerned by Cole Palmer? And I put cold instead of Cole. Yes, is the answer. He still hasn't scored an open play goal since January the 8th in the Premier League. Yes, he was good at the Club World Cup. He went back to being MIA in action. And I'm telling you, if he does that again this week, it will be the easiest 2 transfers of my life. Cole Palmer out for someone that facilitates the move from Watkins to Haaland. Or it could be even a combination of 3 moves and I take a -4 next week. It is what it is. He has this week to prove himself. If him or Saka suck in my team this week, I can guarantee you one of them's making way next week for Haaland. 100% guaranteed. Is it worth chasing a 1-week punt like Saka? Yes and no. I think you want to be targeting that Burnley fixture, but then again, this week it is Sunderland that's playing them. Leeds, obviously, the other promoted team. Also, I think the Wolves team is going to be a team to target. Maybe early doors it's Brentford and West Ham as well, but I do expect those 2 teams to come good, but maybe you can catch them early doors. And then lastly, will Villa come good versus Brentford? You would like to hope so, but I also feel like Brentford are going to be motivated to show up this week. It's a bit like West Ham and Chelsea. Are Chelsea going to come good, or is West Ham actually going to show up this week? I'm not 100% sure, but it's something to monitor. I don't know if you'd just be sitting there openly targeting him, expecting him to come good this week. Now, lots of people are looking at free hit this week, so I've put together the best free hit draft that I think will go really well this week. The teams cost 99.7 million in team value, so everyone can literally afford this. So it would have Raya in goal with that Leeds at home fixture. He was great to be against Man United on the weekend. I don't even know how you say his name. Achipong, he started instead of Tosin. Now, there's a chance that Tosin could be fit and he might not get a game, but either way, you're going to get cash off the bench, so it's not too bad. Truffett, obviously, he looked really good against Liverpool, and I expect Bournemouth to account for Wolves fairly easily. Dorgu, ditto with Man United against Fulham. I think they'll account for them pretty easily. In the midfield, it's Saka as captain. Cole Palmer, he gets one more chance against that West Ham fixture. Reindeers against Tottenham at home, and Semenyo with that Wolves at home fixture looks really good. Valentin also triples up on the Bournemouth assets versus Wolves. That's obviously how much I'm valuing Bournemouth against Wolves. I think that's going to be a nice game for Bournemouth assets. Haaland comes in as the vice captain. I just think that Saka with that home fixture and an easier team on paper should outscore him. That's the only reason why he's captain. Then Watkins against Brentford away. On the bench, you've obviously got Dubravka, Cash, Anderson and Esteve. That's what I would be looking at for a free hit draft in game week 2. If that is the way you're inclined. If you're wildcarding, I just wouldn't do it. I'm not going to put together a wildcard draft in game week 2 when I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. I think you're better off just literally taking hits at this moment in time in the season. So that brings me to the end of my top transfer tips. I've looked at the most transferred in and the most transferred out players of the week. Let me know if you're making any moves in the comments and why you're making them early doors. I am going to be rolling my transfer unless some unforeseen miracle or event happens in the next couple of days. But I'm quite content with the team. I know it sucked in game week 1, but I believe in the story of redemption, and I believe the D-Unit's picks are going to come good. I have faith, and I have to give it at least one more week. Again, if you've enjoyed that, smash a like on the video, share it with your mates, leave me a comment, and if you haven't already, help me out by smashing that subscribe button. And I'll see you again tomorrow for my team selection. I've been FPL D-Unit. Thanks for watching.